been a long time since Subaru's gone mainstream, over a decade now. Prior to that, hey, maybe you just wanted more power out of your Forester, a little bit more ride height. Now things have changed. They've got to compete with the CR-V Hybrid, CX-50 Hybrid, and RAV4 Hybrid. Here it is, the 2025 Subaru Forester Hybrid. It's been a long time coming. More power, more efficiency. Let's go see how it does. So because I've already driven the car this morning, I can set off just in all-electric mode in complete silence. But when you first start up and do a cold start in the morning, it's gonna fire up the Boxer 4 regardless just to get it warm, and then once you're going, it'll turn off. The Forester Hybrid doesn't have a lot of drive modes, which I kind of like. It has just enough, so they call it X mode, cross mode, I guess. We're just gonna leave it in normal. There's snow and dirt, and then there's deep snow or mud, a little bit looser surface, but we'll just keep it in normal. And then for throttle response, we have two settings here on the steering wheel, I or S. SI drive, I or S. And it just changes the top of the throttle pedal effectively. We're moving. All right. So under the hood, as I mentioned, 2.5 liter naturally aspirated Boxer 4. It's a Subaru, that goes without saying. However, the big thing is it's a hybrid, but it's a fully self-contained hybrid. It's not a plug-in, so you don't have to change your lifestyle, your habits. So in that way, it's very similar to the ones I mentioned up top. Total system output here is 194 horsepower. It's nothing exciting, it's nothing special, it's not gonna wake you up in the morning, but it's plenty. Now, Subaru does not state a total combined torque output. However, for the electric motors here, the output is 199 pound-feet. Now, when we're just cruising like this, or if we coast, it will just go into EV mode as it is now. So when you get on throttle, you know, more than half throttle, it takes a second because the gas engine obviously has to fire up, but the electric motor does a really good job in filling that torque and that delay, what could have been a much larger delay before you actually feel all the torque. What I'm trying to say is here, it feels closer to 230, 240 pound-feet total system output. It's actually pretty quick, especially considering this weighs just under 4,000 pounds. Now, the Forester has changed a lot in the last couple decades. In fact, I owned a Forester STI about 6 or 7 years ago, and you might be thinking, Marcus, they never made a Forester STI. That's awesome. I would absolutely buy that here in 2025. They did, but it was only ever sold in Japan. It was sold with a manual, automatic, but back then, the Forester was effectively just a lifted wagon, which was the best thing. They didn't really have any competition, and especially if you lived in a place with a lot of forest service roads, dirt roads, even if you just like going camping, you know, doing all the stereotypical Subaru things that people from Seattle and Portland do, you could do that. The Forester's huge, but first impressions driving it here for a couple of days, I mean, it's surprisingly been able to keep the characteristics of daily driving a Forester that make it incredibly practical. Sure, it's longer, it's taller, but tall was always the Forester's thing. So when you look at the proportions between the body and the windows here, we still have this incredibly tall top half of the car. The ground clearance, this has 8.7 inches of ground clearance. That is a little bit more than something like the CR-V has. So not only are the daily driving characteristics still here that you would expect from the Forester lineage, but also the capabilities, the off-road capabilities, and that carries over to the all-wheel drive system. So the Toyota RAV4 Hybrid, which I have not driven, and the CX-50 Hybrid, which I have driven, both share Toyota's hybrid system, right? And that has an electric motor exclusively powering the rear wheels, and then the transverse, you know, 4-cylinder hybrid setup is exclusively powering the front wheels. The CR-V has a mechanical connection to the rear wheels, and so does this, as all other Subarus, so they can call it symmetrical all-wheel drive. That means the electric motor here, the hybrid system, the electric motors, I should say, there's two of them. One is a generator, start stop and just to basically allow the gas engine to recharge the battery. The other is actually for propulsion. Those are integrated into the transmission. Kind of a transmission. It's an eCVT. It is a CVT here. Yeah, it's a CVT, so it's not the most exciting to drive. Subaru puts paddle shifters on the steering column here. I'm not sure why they do this. There's actually no ability to bring up a tachometer, a tach, to see your revs in the gauge cluster. You cannot do that in this vehicle, which I find a little bit strange. But at the same time, this is kind of like just a set it and forget it daily driver. It's supposed to be the easiest to live with, and it is. So I'm not gonna fault it for that. I just don't ever use the manual mode down here. So that mechanical connection with the all-wheel drive system and the center differential, all of that happens after the entire hybrid system. So it's a lot closer in feel to what you would expect just from a standard Forester, Outback, or any other number of Subaru models. It's quiet, it's refined. I mean, any number of words that would indicate that it's just not annoying in a daily driving scenario. It's also comfortable. You feel a lot of the little stuff in the road, but especially over big bumps. I'm not taking it off-road, unfortunately, today, but it feels as if I could just go on some washboard type stuff out in the desert or hit big bumps at high speed and it would just take it. That's what it feels like. So the suspension feels very, I don't want to say loose, but it feels very like forgiving and like there's a lot of travel at high speeds over big bumps, which is awesome. Yeah, they don't upset the car. It's exactly what I would expect a Forester to do. It's a series parallel hybrid. That just means either the electric motor exclusively will power all four wheels, the gas motor, or a combination of the two. You just let it do its thing. It will get an average of 6.9 liters per 100 kilometers or 34 miles per gallon. This is on paper the worst out of the CX-50 hybrid, RAV4, and CR-V. However, in my experience, it hasn't been that. I've consistently been getting, well, what are we at right now? 6.6. And before I started driving with a heavy foot, I was at 6.4. So that's a lot closer to about 36 miles per gallon. Great fuel economy. I mean, that's a 40% increase over the non-hybrid Forester. And what do you have to do extra? Nothing. So the hybrid looks a little bit different than the standard gas-powered model. Perhaps upon first impressions, you wouldn't be able to tell them apart, but the top-tier models especially get the black grille. I think it's a lot better looking than the previous generation by a long shot. However, you guys tell me if you agree, but the mid-2000s or even early 2000s Foresters were, those were just the best. Subaru, you have not matched it since, but it blends in and it still keeps the kind of greenhouse effect that the Forester's been known for decades now, and that's the important part. On the inside here, it's typical Subaru, a lot of soft touch kind of materials, and of course, because we're in Canada, we're in the top Premier trim, we do have wireless charging as standard, wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are standard regardless, and you get hill descent control as standard. We get the standard leather steering wheel regardless, even on the base model with the heated steering wheel here. But we get leather, we get ultra suede, which is awesome. I mean, it's typical daily driven Subaru in here. Materials are good. The layout is practical. There's quite a bit of space in here. Center console's decent size. 2 cup holders here, of course. And then we do have a hard button for the 360 cam. And the gauge display, of course, for this generation is all digital. There's a bit of customization here. We can look at our average fuel economy. Of course, we've got our speedo, or we can display maps here. You cannot, however, display your phone integrated maps if you're using Android or Apple, your Apple Maps, Google Maps, in the center display here. So you have to use Subaru's native maps, which, as I mentioned in the WRX TS review, isn't the most responsive. It's fine. Temperature up, down, defrost, physical volume knob, all that kind of stuff. And your climate control for this generation, of course, has been moved to the screen. Most of it, right? You can still bring up, if you click that, a bigger version of it. But I love physical controls, and this is where the CR-V, and this isn't just me, but the CR-V and the CX-50 do that a little bit better. I think the Honda does it best as far as usability of the infotainment here, but this is fine. It's responsive enough. It just doesn't look the greatest, but everything's here. It's easy to use. Build quality is good. The seats are comfortable. Nothing to write home about. There are no Forester STI seats, but they're comfortable enough. Materials are good. And the best part is the Forester still has really good second row seating. Let's go back there. Plenty of space in the second row, especially the headroom, and that's what Subaru does best. But of course, this is a 60/40 split folding second row. Also, I forgot to mention a bit of piano black, which isn't a problem. I actually don't hate piano black in most scenarios, except for down there. If you look closely, you can see, I mean, this vehicle's only driven, 2,000 or 3,000 kilometers. It's already scratched beyond repair. Maybe you could buff it out, but I'm sure as an owner, you wouldn't want to be spending your time doing that. But the rear seats get the same ultra suede treatment, of course. Heated rear seats, which for the same money you are not getting in a CR-V. We'll come to the back here. Like I mentioned, power lift gate. We'll test that out in a second. Single exit exhaust, of course, here. But there's also a little indent there suggesting there would be a dual exhaust on some models. I'm not sure if there actually is, probably. Of course, this is just to save money. I don't think it looks the greatest to have this kind of look here, having a blank space and then an exhaust. But I get why they did that. This is not like an $80,000 vehicle. They can't afford to make a bunch of new bumpers just for the hybrid model. But if I go like this, oh, it worked this morning. I would like the tailgate to open. Thank you. Oh, wow. Guys, I've been here for like 15 minutes. No, I'm just kidding. It worked though, it worked. Quite a bit of space back here, and of course you've got a little plastic on the bumper to save it from getting scratched. Love that, definitely a Subaru thing. And then you've got a bit of a pattern here, I guess, showcasing a mountain range, something, the indication of the possibilities you could unlock with a Subaru. It's such a Subaru thing, I love that. Little hooks here, I guess you can tie stuff down, and then this is really easy to fold down. One thing that's worthy to note is, of course, the battery. I'm assuming they did this for weight distribution, but it's below here where the spare tire would be. So if we pop this up, there is actually no spare, no temporary spare either. There's a little bit of room actually for storage, I guess, there. But this does, of course, have a rear differential, but it is an open diff. And then it does brake-based torque vectoring to send torque either to the left or right wheels. And of course, it's full-time all-wheel drive. It's always sending torque to all four wheels. So as far as price goes, this starts at $49,000 Canadian as tested here with destination, all that stuff, at $51,000 or $45,000 USD. Thing is, so this is the top trim, this is the Premier. It's got everything. It's got the moonroof here, I guess the sunroof, which is awesome. Actually, this opens a lot larger than your standard sunroof, and I'd rather have that than just a giant glass roof that doesn't open, so that's good. 360 cam, you've got leather here, ultra suede, and a bunch of other safety features. You've got the power lift gate, stuff like that in this top trim. However, in the States, you can get lower trims. So the base price is a lot lower, I believe about $35,000 USD. If you just want a lifted Subaru crossover with decent off-road capabilities, good all-wheel drive, something that's gonna just save you fuel. You can't do that here in Canada. You have to get everything else that maybe you don't need, maybe you don't want. So that's slightly annoying. However, it does undercut the CR-V in price by a little bit. If you get an equivalently spec'd CR-V hybrid, a top trim hybrid, it's $5,000 or $6,000 Canadian more. For a base CR-V hybrid sport, it's about $2,000 less than this. And in that, you're getting like a manual passenger seat, and you're not getting leather seats. You're getting fabric seats for that, just as an example, right? All right, so that's the Forester Hybrid. I mean, not much to complain about. There's just a couple things. I mean, the infotainment, putting the climate control all integrated into the screen, I think it's a bit of a mistake. You guys let me know what you think. But as far as powertrain goes, as far as drivetrain goes, zero complaints. It's getting a lot better fuel economy. It's awesome. I mean, it's a no-brainer if you can stomach the additional price. And that's where here in Canada, not being able to spec a lower tier model really cuts out a lot of potential Subaru buyers who just want a kind of minimalist vehicle that has all-wheel drive. You know, they're prioritizing powertrain over like interior materials and 360 cameras and stuff like that, right? You can't do that here in Canada. I'm sure they will at some point bring the lower tier models, but for you guys in the States, that's available. Yeah, there you go. Forester Hybrid, a great crossover. It's not the most exciting thing, but neither is a CR-V, right? And just on a final note, the CR-V and the CX-50, the ones I've driven, to give you a good comparison without having to rehash those reviews, you should go watch them. The CR-V, I would pick the hybrid over the standard gas-powered model, but the CX-50, I would choose the standard gas-powered model over the hybrid. It's just more exciting. It does a lot of things really well. There's an edge there that the gas-powered CX-50 has that the gas-powered CR-V just does not have. So there it is. Let me know what you guys think. We'll see you soon.